In the old town of Uppsala, where cobblestone streets wound their way between brightly painted houses, there lived a boy named Eric Lindstrom. He was 10 years old, with wide blue eyes that always lit up at the sight of one thing above all else: sweets. The market square of Uppsala was filled with shops that displayed jars of colorful candy in their windows. Red and white peppermint sticks, chewy caramels wrapped in shiny paper, and sour drops that sparkled like little jewels. Eric could stand for minutes at a time, pressing his nose against the glass of the sweet shop, dreaming of tasting them all. But in the Lindstrom household, sweets were something rare. His parents, careful and strict, allowed him only a few pieces on special occasions. Birthdays, Christmas, perhaps a summer fair. For Eric, this felt like torture. Every day he longed for more, and every day he was told no. One winter evening, after dinner, Eric's mother said gently, "Too much candy will ruin your teeth, Eric. You know that." His father added firmly, "And it will make you sick. Be patient. A little is enough." Eric nodded politely, but inside, his frustration burned. Why should such happiness be kept from him? He dreamed of opening a box filled with sweets, eating until he could eat no more, without anyone stopping him. And so, one snowy night, as he lay awake in his bed, Eric made a decision. He would find a way. He would convince his parents to let him have as much candy as he wanted. It would not be easy. But Eric had a sharp mind and a growing determination. The first step of his plan would begin the very next day. The following morning, Uppsala awoke beneath a blanket of snow. Eric pulled on his woolen boots and coat, his mind already racing with ideas. He had promised himself he would no longer wait for sweets to come on rare occasions. He would earn them, or rather, trick his way into them. That afternoon, when his mother handed him his toothbrush, Eric brushed with a determination that surprised even her. He scrubbed carefully, humming as he did, until the bristles nearly squeaked against his teeth. At dinner, when the table was quiet, he spoke with a practiced innocence. "Mama, Papa, I have brushed my teeth 3 times today. If I keep them clean, would it be so bad if I had just a little more candy?" His mother raised her eyebrows. His father folded his arms. There was a silence long enough to make Eric's stomach twist. But then his father chuckled. "You are clever, Eric. Very well. If you can prove you are responsible, perhaps you may have more." That night, Eric felt the first taste of victory. It was not yet the mountain of sweets he dreamed of, but it was a step. Eric soon realized that cleverness alone would not be enough. His parents needed more than words. They needed proof that he was not selfish. So he devised a second trick. On Sunday afternoon, when his parents gave him a single caramel, he did not unwrap it at once. Instead, he carried it to his little sister, Ingrid. She was only 5, with golden hair and a smile that melted hearts. "For you," he said kindly, placing the sweet in her hand. Ingrid's eyes lit up. She skipped into the kitchen and shouted, "Mama, Eric gave me his candy." His mother looked at him in surprise. His father gave a nod of approval. "That was kind of you, Eric." Inside, Eric's heart leapt. He had not done it out of kindness, but out of strategy. Yet the result was the same. His parents began to believe he was responsible enough to handle more. The trick was working. Days passed. Eric sharpened his skills. He began helping with small chores around the house, carrying wood for the fire, sweeping snow from the doorstep. He always made sure his parents noticed. One evening, as the family sat by the crackling fire, Eric struck his bargain. "If I do my chores every day and if I brush my teeth, could I not have a little more candy? Perhaps just 1 piece after dinner?" His father exchanged a look with his mother. She hesitated, then gave a small smile. "You may have 1 piece after dinner, but only 1. Eric forced himself to look satisfied, though his heart was dancing. 1 piece every evening meant 7 sweets a week. Far more than before. But Eric's hunger for sugar was growing faster than his victories. 1 piece was not enough. He wanted freedom. Unlimited. And so, he began planning his boldest step yet. At the market square of Uppsala, The sweet shop was run by a kindly old woman named Nyberg. She knew Eric well, for he often stood at her window with longing eyes. One afternoon, with coins saved from his allowance, Eric walked into her shop. The smell was heavenly, a mixture of chocolate, licorice, and peppermint. He placed his coins on the counter and whispered, "As many as this will buy." Nyberg laughed softly. "You have quite the appetite, young Lindstrom." She handed him a small paper bag, its weight filling his hands with joy. Back at home, Eric crept into the attic and hid the bag behind a loose wooden beam. It was his secret stash, his treasure. At night, when the house was quiet, he would sneak up and eat in silence, tasting freedom in every bite. But secrets never stay hidden forever. One morning, Eric awoke with a stomachache. He had eaten too much from his hidden stash. He dragged himself to the table, pale and slow. "Are you unwell?" his mother asked. Eric forced a smile. "Just a little tired." But Ingrid, ever watchful, noticed the faint trace of sugar powder on his sleeve. Later that day, she followed him, small footsteps soft on the wooden stairs. When Eric reached the attic, she peeked around the corner and gasped. A pile of sweet wrappers lay scattered on the floorboards. The stash was no longer secret. "Eric," she whispered, eyes wide. He begged her not to tell. "Please, Ingrid. If Mama and Papa find out, they will never let me have sweets again." Ingrid's lips curled into a mischievous grin. "Then you must share with me." The balance of power had shifted. Eric was no longer alone in his secret. With Ingrid now part of his secret, Eric's plan became more complicated. He had to split his stash, to keep her quiet. Together they tiptoed to the attic, whispering like conspirators. But even as he shared, Eric's mind worked restlessly. He wanted more than a stash in the attic. He wanted his parents to surrender completely. At dinner, he began to act differently. He spoke politely, praised his mother's cooking, even complimented his father's stories. His behavior was so unusual that his parents began to suspect nothing at all. But suspicion never sleeps for long. One evening, his mother noticed the empty wrappers in the bin, wrappers she had not bought. She said nothing, but her eyes narrowed. Eric felt the air tightening around him. He was close to either triumph or disaster. It happened on a snowy evening. Eric was creeping towards the attic when his father's voice thundered behind him. "Eric, stop." He froze. Slowly he turned. His father stood with arms folded, his mother beside him. Ingrid peeked nervously from behind. "What are you hiding?" his father demanded. Eric's throat went dry. His secret had been uncovered. They searched the attic, and there it was, the stash, the evidence of his greed. His mother sighed deeply. "You tricked us, Eric. You pretended to be responsible, but you only wanted to fool us." Shame burned his cheeks, but another feeling rose stronger. Desperation. "I only wanted sweets," he cried. "Why can I not have as many as I want?" The room was heavy with silence. His father's eyes softened, but his voice remained firm. "Because too much freedom can destroy you, Eric. Even sweetness can become poison." The next day, Eric faced his punishment. The stash was taken away. His allowance suspended. No sweets at all for an entire month. At first, the anger inside him raged. He felt betrayed, humiliated. He avoided his parents, sulking in corners, glaring at the locked cupboard where the sweets were kept. But as the days dragged on, Eric's stomach healed, and his mind cleared. He began to notice things he had ignored before. The warmth of the fire, the laughter of Ingrid, the taste of simple bread and butter. Still, temptation whispered. At the market square, the sweet shop windows glittered, reminding him of the treasure he had lost. And then, one fateful afternoon, Nyberg slipped a single caramel into his hand. "For free," she said kindly. "But only one." Eric stared at it, the entire weight of his choices pressing down. That night, Eric sat alone in his room, the caramel resting in his palm. He could devour it in seconds. No one would know. But he did not. Not at once. He turned it over and over, thinking of the chase, the lies, the punishment, and the disappointment in his parents' eyes. At last, he unwrapped it slowly and let the sweetness melt gently on his tongue. Just one. Just enough. For the first time, Eric understood something he had never believed before. The taste was better when it was earned, when it was not stolen. Downstairs, the fire crackled. His family spoke softly, unaware of his decision. In the quiet of that winter night in Uppsala, Eric's story reached its turning point. He had not conquered his desire, but he had learned to carry it. The sweet desire was no longer his master.